the systematic investigation into study of materials and sources in order to establish facts and reach new conclusion, and that is the research. Good morning, class. My name is Arnel Tacusalme. Like Kataba mo, already discussed the next step in identifying a research topic, which is to narrow down your topic and research for more information. Today's discussion will focus on the final two steps in the process of selecting research topic, which is decide the appropriate research questions and formulate a problem statement. So please bear with me throughout the discussions. Let's get started. When we say decide appropriate research questions, it is based on the topic. Develop your research questions that you will address in the research process. Writing down the research questions will help you to have a direct direction in the research process. It will help you to set the objectives and the hypothesis of the research. A good research questions is essential to guide your research paper, project, or thesis. It pinpoints exactly what you want to find out and gives your work a clear focus and purpose. All research questions should be focused on a single problem or issue. Your central research question should follow from research problem to keep your work focused. If you have multiple questions, they should all clearly relate to this central aim. And the next one is researchable. Using primary or secondary sources, you must be able to find an answer by collecting quantitative or qualitative data or by reading scholarly sources on the topic to develop an argument. If such data is possible to access, you will have rethink your questions and ask something more concrete. While the feasible is to answer within the time frame and practical constraints. Specific is to enough to answer thoroughly, while the complex is enough to develop the answer over the space of paper or thesis. And the relevant is your field of study or society more broadly. And the last one is does not ask for a subjective value judgment. Is to avoid subjective words like bad, good, better, and worse, as these do not give clear criteria for answering the question. If your question is evaluating something, use terms with more measurable definition. Example, is X or Y is better fallacy? How effective are X and Y policies at reducing rates of Z? In a research paper or essay, you will usually write a single research questions to guide your reading and thinking. The answer that you develop your thesis statement, the central assertion or position that your paper will argue for. In a bigger research project, such as thesis or dissertation, or a long piece of academic writing based on original research, you might have multiple research questions, but they should all clearly connected and focus around the central research problem. Let's move on to the last topic that we are going to talk about, which is formulate a problem statement. So the next step is to formulate a problem statement based on the research question that you have identified. A problem statement is concise and logical statement about the research focus and describes what exactly you are providing, analyzing, answering as an outcome of research process. It explains the purpose of the research. This discussion will aim to provide you with using your problem solving skills to create a problem statement. In this lesson, we have included step-by-step instruction as well as comprehensible example for reference. So what is the problem statement? A problem statement is a statement of current issue or a problem that requires timely action to improve the situation. Concisely explain the barrier the current problem places between a functional process or a product and a current problematic state of affairs. This statement is completely objective, focusing only on the facts of the problem and leaving out any subjective opinions. To make this easier, it recommended that you ask who, what, when, where, and why to create a structure for your problem statement. This will also make it easier to create and read, and makes the problem at hand more comprehensible and therefore solvable. The problem statement, in addition to defining a pressing issue is lead in the proposal of timely, effective solution. So why is a problem statement important? A problem statement is communication tool. A problem statements are important to businesses, individuals, and other entities to develop projects, focus on improvements, whether the problem is pertaining to badly needed road work or the logistic for an island construction project. A clear, concise problem statement is typically used by projects team to help define and understand the problem and develop possible solutions. So this statement also provides important information that is crucial in decision making in relation to this project or processes. And now let's move on to the write a problem statement for your research in 3 steps. After you have identified a research problem for your project, the next step is to write a problem statement. An effective problem statement is concise and concrete. There are various situations in which you might have write a problem statement. In businesses and other organizations, writing a problem statement is an important step in improvement projects. To help you understand steps 1, 2, and 3, I will give you an example of each step. For each stage, we will look at the practical research problems and theoretical research problem that we will handle. And we will learn how to ask a question about a specific topic. Let's start with step 1. For the step 1, we have contextualized the problem. The problem statement should frame your research problem in its particular context and give some background on what is already known about it. Practical research problems. For practical research, focus on the concrete details of the situation. Where and when does the problem arise? Who does the problem affect? What attempts have been made to solve the problem? For example, voter turnout in Region X has been decreased regularly over the past 10 years. In contrast to other areas of the country, according to the survey conducted by Organization Y, turnout is lowest among under 25s and people on low incomes. There have been some attempts at engaging these groups in other regions. And in the last 2 election parties, A and B increased their campaigning efforts in Region X. But these interventions have been yet to have any significant effect on turnout. For theoretical research problems, think about the specific or the scientific, social, geographical, or historical background. What is already known about the problem? Is the problem limited to a certain time period or geographical area? How has the problem have been defined and debated in the scholarly literature? For example, in the past 10 years, the gig economy has become an increasingly important segment of the labor market. Under 30s are more likely to engage in freelance, constructed or zero-hour work in arrangement instead of traditional full-time jobs. Research on the reasons and consequences of this shift has focused on objective measures of the income, working hours, or employment conditions, but there has been little work in exploring young people's subjective experiences of the gig economy. For the step 2, we have show why it matters. The problem statement should also address the relevance of the research, why it is important that the problem is solved. This does not mean you have to do something groundbreaking or world-changing. It's more important that the problem is researchable, feasible, and clearly address a relevant issue in your field. For the practical research problem for this situation, it's directly relevant to a specific problem that affects an organization, institution, social group, or society more broadly. To make it clear why your research problem matters, you can ask yourself what will happen if the problem is not solved. Who will feel the consequences? Does the problem have wider relevance? Or like similar issues found in other contexts? For example, low voter turnout has been shown to have negative association with social cohesion and civic engagement, and is becoming an area of increasingly concern in many European democracies. When specific groups of citizens' political representation they are likely to become more excluded over time, leading to a waste of trust in democratic institutions. Addressing the problem will have a practical benefits for Region X and contribute to understanding of the widespread happening. For the theoretical research problems, sometimes theoretical issues have clear practical consequences, but sometimes the relevance is less immediately obvious. To identify why the problem matters, ask how will resolving the problem advance understanding of the topic? What benefits will it have for future research? Does the problem have direct or indirect consequences for society? Another example, in the literature on the gig economy, these new forms of employment are sometimes characterized as flexible, active choice, and sometimes as an exploitative last resort. To gain a fuller understanding of why young people engage in the gig economy, in-depth qualitative research is required. Focusing on workers' experiences can help develop more strong theories of flexibility and precarity in contemporary employment, as well as potentially informing future policy objectives. For the last step, set your aims and objectives. Finally, the problem statement should frame how you intend to address the problem. Your goal should not be find a conclusive solution, but to seek out the reason behind the problem and propose more effective approaches to tackling or understanding it. The aim is the overall purpose of your research. It is generally written in the infinitive form. When we say infinitive form, these are the aim of the study is to determine, this project aims to explore, I am to investigate, the objectives are the concrete steps you will take to achieve the aim. Qualitative methods will be used to identify. Like you will be using surveys to collect, using statistical analysis to measure the research. For the practical research aims and objectives, the aim of this research is to investigate effective engagement strategies to increase voter turnout in Region X. It will identify the most significant factors in non-voting through surveys and interviews, and conduct experiments to measure the effectiveness of different strategies. For the theoretical research aims and objectives, this project aims to better understand young people's experiences in the gig economy. Qualitative methods will be used to gain in-depth insights into the motivation and perception of under-30s engaged in the freelance and zero-hour work across various industries. This data will be contextualized with a review of recent literature on the gig economy and statistical analysis of demographic changes in the workplace. The aims and objective should lead directly to your research questions. And that's the end of my report. Thank you for taking the time to listen. I hope you learned something today. God bless.